Welcome to the golf edition of Hooked on Sport. This is South Australia's summer golf wrap, where we uncover the stories, personalities and moments that define golf across South Australia and beyond. It's time to talk golf with sports commentator Ben Hook and state golf representative Sophie Hilditch.
Good on you, Wallace. Thank you. Yes, hello everyone. What a massive week it is going to be in Pennant golf in particular, because it is semi-final time. And when we talk Pennant golf, we always get the expertise and insight of Sophie Hilditch involved. And Soph, weren't you just the party pooper this week?
Oh, Ben, why would you start with that? Yeah, I was a bit of a party pooper. I ruined someone's 21st birthday, but I don't think I ruined it. I think that's going a bit too far. I think she still had a nice day.
Can we just say a very, very happy 21st birthday to Emily Giotis, one of our favourites here at Hooked on Sport, a champion of the Kooyonga Golf Club and someone we really love. She's been very gracious to us so many times. And yes, you did shade her a little bit in the last minor round game, but I've just got to say what a ripping young kid she is. We absolutely love her and we hope she had a wonderful 21st birthday, aside from just getting done by Sophie Hilditch.
Yeah, definitely a happy birthday, a happy 21st birthday to Emily. She looked like she had fun the night before. She looked absolutely stunning and was celebrating with a lot of the girls that were actually out there on Sunday. So, look, I think I didn't completely spoil her weekend. We still had fun out there, and Emily's an absolute ripper. I love it a bit. So, always a pleasure to play her, and a big happy birthday.
Yeah, hope she had a great day, and may there be many, many more birthdays to come for Emily Giotis, one of our absolute favourites here at Hooked on Sport. From Emily Giotis to another one of Sophie Stars, tell me who you've got this week.
Very smooth, Ben. Loved that. Very smooth. You've been working on that all day?
Specialist. No, I haven't. Just came out right then.
Don't believe it for a second. That sounded like AI generated kind of stuff coming out of your mouth. But look, it was hard not to. I've gone a pretty obvious one. I'm sorry to say, but I've gone Hannah Green winning the JM Eagle LA Championship. That's 4 wins out of 5 starts. There's actually a cut in there somewhere, or obviously one of them.
Yeah.
She's got her usual caddy back on the bag. Buhai is back, so I'm happy that Jared Felton doesn't have to quit the career, quit the tour and come back on. But no, Hannah Green, I think we're going to talk about her later on in the show, so I don't want to harp on too much, but what an outstanding season she is having. I think she is a clear favourite for the majors that are coming up later on.
She's going so well, she even rang you up just to say thank you for making your Sophie Star this week. I heard your phone ringing in the background there.
Yeah, apologies. Sorry, Wallace, if you have to cut that one out. But no, Hannah Green, this is actually her 8th LPGA victory, and do you know where that puts her? That puts her joining Rachel Hetherington at 4th place of all-time women Australian golfers. That's behind Minjee Lee with 11 tour wins, Jan Stevenson with 16, and, well, Carrie Webb with 41. So she's got a bit of work to do to catch up to Carrie.
Yeah, I remember interviewing Sarah Lowe at the Rolton Medal, where she just won her 4th Rolton Medal. No one's won more Rolton Medals in history, but I went back through the records before the Rolton Medal was the Rolton Medal, and they had the South Australian Women's Cricket Association Player of the Year, and Karen had won 9 of those, plus she actually won her own medal, the Rolton Medal. So I was saying to Sarah, look, you've only got 6 more to match up with the great Karen Rolton. Brilliant, wonderful Sophie Star, absolutely appropriate. I'm going back to the grassroots, as I tend to do, Soph, and I'm going to give it to my boy with the plums, Ben Walters, Ben's best for the week. Now, he's a part of Mount Osmond's Simpson Cup team. They finished in 7th position, so you would think, well, shrug your shoulders, that's not all that exciting. But just let me take you through what's gone on the last 2 years. In 2024, Mount Osmond had 0 wins for the year. They got some absolute backside kickings, and Ben Walters played every match for 0 wins. 0 wins, Soph. They got relegated. They came back in 2026. He has had 5 wins for the year in a team that, up until the last week of the season, were a chance to play finals. So it's been an incredible turnaround from the team. It's been an incredible turnaround from him. 5 wins for the year. He's in the chat for Team of the Year, and that's quite prestigious, as you know, so for someone who's made that team 3 or 4 times yourself. And the thing about Ben Walters is he doesn't get to play Mount Osmond, one of the lower ranked clubs. You know, he's doing this against the Grange and Kooyonga and Royal Adelaide and Glenelg. So the beautiful thing about him, he plays without a rangefinder, no GPS. He just wanders past a sprinkler head, checks the number and says, that's to the centre of the green and I'll just judge it from there. So no airs or graces about him, just goes out there and plays the game very organically. He's a battler. And I love a battler, and I love the fact that he's done this for Mount Osmond against the grain. So he's Ben's best for this week, Soph.
Hats off to him, not using a rangefinder. I love that. Yeah. Not even a yardage book, just sprinkler heads, and just has to ask the pro shop, are you sprinkler heads to the front of the green or are they to the centre?
Sprinkler head or the 100-metre post. Yeah, I'm about 20 metres inside that. Good enough. Let's say 80. And just works it out on field. Dan Searle, the number one, does the same thing. Doesn't use a rangefinder either. Just works it out. So. For all of you hip young kids with all of your mod cons, you don't have to do it that way every time. Just walk up there, judge the distance, pull the right club, and whack it over the flag. So, yeah, Benny Walters is Ben's best for the week. Soph, I'm going to talk about the RBC Heritage, but why don't you tell me what happened in the LPGA Tour first of all, and just give me the overview of Hannah Green's incredible victory.
Oh, well, this was amazing. It's one of the best comebacks that I have seen in a long time. She walked off the 11th hole in the final round 6 shots behind the leader. She's then fired 5 back 9 birdies, 4 in a row from 13 to 16. She actually had a chance on 18 to sink a birdie putt and win it outright, but this was good enough to get her into a 3-way playoff. It was a final round, 4 under, total 17 under, and she got into the playoff against the Korean pair, Se Young Kim and Jin Hee Im. But it was a playoff that was just absolutely incredibly outstanding. I think Hannah Green probably had about a pitching wedge in her hands. It was a tuck left pin, water surrounding it. Now I want to speak to Hannah, and I'll text her later on after, when our mates after the Aussie Open, clearly.
We just hung up on her before.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So she's calling me to make sure I'm okay.
Chatting to Hookie.
Yeah, and just wanting to see how my semi-final prep is going for Sunday. But look, I think she's got to have pulled this. To have the balls actually go for that pin, I don't think there's any way that she was aiming for it. But she ended up having a pretty similar putt to what she'd had in regulation. But this time, instead of missing the putt, she made sure she sunk it, and it was unbelievable. This is huge for Hannah Green. This is one of the best starts she's ever had to an LPGA season. I cannot wait to see what she does next. I think she's going to be a massive contender for the majors. Her ball striking has just been incredible, and the putter that has sometimes let her down a little bit has been on point. I'm also very happy for Bull High. I felt a bit sorry for him when she was stringing off all these wins in Australia, and I was thinking, oh, mate, I don't know if you're getting back on the bag, but she proved it wasn't just a honeymoon period with a new caddy, and it's actually her own game that's got her there, which is, obvious. I don't think we really had to question that, but it's an incredible start to her season. She spoke about it. She's still nervous trying to get those wins, but the ability she has to be able to channel those nerves and put it into a game is just outstanding.
She's number 8 in the world. I just had a quick check of the rankings, and they haven't changed over for the Rolex rankings yet, so I imagine that happens probably in the next few hours, but I suspect she's projected to get into 6. I think she'll go past Lydia Ko, probably won't get quite past Minjee Lee, so we'll have 5 and 6 in the world, I think, will be the 2 Australians, which is incredible. And I think it's quite sad that these girls have, outside of us, not so much outside of us, but outside of us golf people, they almost have no profile in Australia. You look at Minjee Lee, all of her sponsors are Korean. They do not get the profile that they absolutely warrant for everything that they are doing, both on and off the course. They're wonderful ambassadors for the game, the pair of them, and they're superstars on the field as well. So, yeah, Hannah Green, 4 wins from her last 5 starts and well inside the top 10 in the world. Can I take you through the RBC Heritage? Because it was wild today, Soph, on so many fronts. Scotty Scheffler was 3 shots back from the Saturday night leader, Matt Fitzpatrick. And Matt Fitzpatrick has played maybe the most diabolical chip I've ever seen to bogey the 72nd hole, and it went to a playoff. Now, look, it was really tough conditions. It was windy as all heck. And I would probably argue that as bad as Matt Fitzpatrick's chip was in regulation, Scotty Scheffler's iron into that 72nd, it was that first playoff green, so the 73rd hole, was even worse again. I felt good about myself to see these two guys make such elementary mistakes. Now, as I said, they were very, very difficult shots. The wind was coming super hard off the left on that 18th hole, where there's an enormous landing area, but into off the left for even the best professional golfers is still the wind you want the least. And for someone like Scheffler who hits a fade, that really set a challenge for him. So if I just backtrack, Fitzpatrick has hit about a 70-foot chip, 25 feet short. I mean, that's just unheard of at this level. And it was a perfect lie, had nothing to grizzle about, just basically almost flubbed it, really. And then Scheffler in the playoff had a 6-iron in and hit it 38 yards short. And this was all after Matt Fitzpatrick had hit it to 8 feet with a 4-iron. So that just gives you a bit of an indication of what the wind was like. My understanding is he pulled it, but the wind was so hard it kept it on track and left him with an 8-foot putt, which he made. Now, this was all on the backdrop against a raucous pro-American crowd. There was cheering and all sorts when Fitzpatrick made the mistakes that he did and bogeyed the last. It was really pretty brutal, quite frankly. And not surprisingly, when he made the birdie in that first playoff hole, first he shook Scotty Scheffler's hand, but then held his hand up to his ear as if to say, can't hear you now, all of the crowd around Hilton Head. So, yeah, and he handled it really well as well, because he got in the press conference, he was asked about it. He said, look, I think it's great. I think they're always going to barrack for Scheffler. They are Americans supporting their guy, but isn't it great that I get paid a lot of money to be in this environment, in this cauldron, and to prevail and to win under those circumstances made it feel even better. So Matt Fitzpatrick, I think he's now number 3 in the world. So if he's had an incredible 12 months, I was just looking through the numbers on the official world golf rankings before. He had a T8 at the 2025 PGA, and his form hadn't been all that super, in particular after he won the US Open in 2023, I think it was. But since that T8, he's had another 12 top 10s, including 3 wins. And as I said, number 3 in the world. So incredible for Matt Fitzpatrick. But Soph, I've just noticed here on our notes that we shouldn't be absolutely celebrating all the men on the tour, because there's been some misbehaving going on, and you just wanted to call it out.
No, I didn't really want to call it out. I just thought it was an interesting topic of conversation. It's just interesting.
Used the word hypocrisy.
I did use the word hypocrisy. Thank you for reading them in advance, Hookie. I'm glad that as you're giving us the outline of RBC Heritage, you're then reading my notes and thinking, oh, wait, she might want to actually contribute to this podcast at some point. Here we go. She's added something. But no, I just thought it was interesting. So I spoke about last week at the end of the Masters when we were talking about the live characters, and I called out Sergio Garcia, and I said, outrageous behavior. He's known to be fiery. It's not the first time that he's done it, but he was breaking tee boxes and it was pretty disgusting behavior. Max Homa was asked about it in an interview and basically said, yes, I don't think players should be doing that. He did mention, I can't just stand on my high horse and say I've never done it. I've done it before. But literally in the next event, there's footage of Max Homa throwing a club after a duff shot, and I just thought, isn't that just hilarious? Isn't that just funny that you've just had a go at another player and then all of a sudden in the next week you've not been able to hold down your frustrations? I just thought it was an interesting point, and just a query and probably a question to you. What do you think the repercussion should be? Like, do you think these professional players should be held to a standard, let's not throw clubs, let's not break clubs, let's treat the course of respect? It's a bit outrageous that you can't hold in a little bit of frustration.
And the problem is that you have the PGA Tour that is just completely enabling of this really, really poor, bad example sort of behaviour, because you know full well that vision is going to get completely scraped from the internet to within an inch of its life. And anyone who reposts it is going to face the wrath of the PGA Tour. They are just such protected species, these guys. I mean, there is no other sport where you could have a bad day as one of the most important players in the world, as Cameron Smith did last week, and just shrug his shoulders and say, well, hang it, I'm not doing media. I made the point that Michael Voss, win, lose or draw, as the Carlton coach, has to front up and do his 2 press conferences a week and his post-match press conference as well, and they might be unpleasant, but he fronts up and does them. And there is a terrible issue at the moment in men's professional golf where they are just not prepared to be responsible for their actions in so many ways. You're showing me something on your phone there, Sophie.
I'm showing you something. I've got to say, Max Homer has posted the footage of him having a hissy fit on his story, apologising again and saying I should be held to a higher standard. And it's cropped. You won't be able to see it, unfortunately. It's cropped with his interview at the Masters saying, yep, I did say that, and yep, the next week I did throw it off. So I agree with you. I think the PGA might try and hide it, but I respect the hell out of Max Homer for coming up on social media and coming up online and saying, yep, hands up, I screwed up here, and thank you for holding me accountable.
Yeah, no, it is good, but I 100% believe that if you do toss a club or show some sort of outrageous anger like what we've seen too many times, that there should be some sort of financial penalty for it. I mean, they've got plenty of it. Give it back to a charity if you can't control your emotions. Good point, Soph. Well done. What do you reckon? Time to get it. Oh, you know what I just wanted to touch on, and I did forget to add it to our list. What did you make of the week that Liv Golf had? We've talked about Liv a lot. We have said that they have had some really good weeks and some disappointing weeks. Maybe no more disappointing week than what they've had to endure this week. Look, it's very difficult for us to know, but I'm just interested in your insight, how you think that's playing out, and maybe you have a crystal ball and you can look into it and see what we can expect next.
Well, I definitely don't have a crystal ball, unfortunately. That's not my specialty. I don't have the magical powers to know whether or not Piff is 100% pulling out or what is happening. Liv's obviously coming out and saying, look, guys, it's going to be absolutely fine. We have the money, we have the funding. It's hard not to look at the North Adelaide course redevelopment, and I know the politicians out there are saying, yep, no, we've got promises from Liv that all will be going ahead. The money that's been promised to us to help out with the course redevelopment is still secure, still fine, but in their next breath, they are saying we're going to have to watch this space. So it's a bit up in the air, everything. And I don't know, I feel like we kind of saw this happening at the start of Liv even coming to, and we always thought, at some point this money pool has to end. It can't just keep coming. There's no way that they can sustain this for years on end, particularly when Golf Adelaide for a long time was the only tournament that was making them any sort of revenue. Yep. Now, obviously, the South African one is as well. But I don't know, Ben, this is a bit of an issue, a bit of a worry. I really hope the North Adelaide course redevelopment can go ahead, and the government has mentioned that this redevelopment wasn't just brought on because of Liv, and it was in the back of their mind prior to that. So I'm hoping this doesn't impact North Adelaide, but I'm a little bit concerned about the future of Liv Golf.
Yeah, I'm reasonably bullish about North Adelaide. I think that survives all of these challenges. I think that the Premier is on board with it. I think you can see a Women's Australian Open being held at North Adelaide, right on the city centre. The tourism and, the postcards that can create, Soph. And I think maybe he would even have one eye on a Men's Australian Open down the track.
Yep.
Whether the course can cater for a Men's Australian Open, that remains to be seen. But I think that's fine. I do feel like you're right that we always thought that one day we were going to be confronted with the end of Liv one way or another. It was never really going to take over. It was always going to be absorbed into something else. And how we, I guess, were affected by that, whether there was still going to be a long-term Liv Golf Adelaide or whether we were going to be, sort of consigned to history, if you like, we were never really sure. So, and I'm just really sad for all of the people that we know in and around Adelaide who have got into the game as a result of Liv Golf Adelaide. I've spoken to you a number of times, Soph, about mates of mine at the fire station, Adam Haygreen, who we've played golf with. I mean, he is a convert to the game because of Liv Golf. There's a number of people who work in the industry here. There's the 54 office, there's Helix Management, who have been able to make careers out of working with Liv Golf. And if that disappears, there are a number of people who are going to be looking for alternative careers as well. And I'm really sad about that because all of those people I've got a lot of respect for. I enjoy their company and I love their passion for the game. So, I fear the worst. But I'm going to hope that maybe we could see a Liv Kooyonga in 2027 and maybe beyond. But I think we will need to accept that won't be with some of the biggest names who are on the biggest paychecks, that Bryson DeChambeau probably has played his last Liv Adelaide. I mean, he is asking for something in the vicinity of $500 million, and those sorts of numbers are off the table now. And whether it becomes a bit more of a development tour, I think that's entirely possible. But in the end, we don't really know. We can only speculate. But I just hope that we see some form of international golf tournament here that's Liv-based in 2027, because I think it would be fun to see it at Kiwi.
100% agree, Hooky. But speaking of Kui, one of the clubs that are going to be playing Pennant in the semi-finals, how about we head straight to our Pennant reviews? Because I am dying to hear some of your comments.
Well, let's start with the Kooyonga Golf Club that won't be in the finals of Pennant because the Sanderson Cup team went down to your Royal Adelaide team and they are out. They finished fourth in the five-team competition. Blackwood finished in last place. And Royal Adelaide have finished in second. You're going to take on Glenelg in the preliminary final. So, Soph, you must have been really pleased with that outcome.
Oh, we were ecstatic. I mean, everyone knows it. Kooyonga and Royal Adelaide, the biggest rivalry out there in terms of golf clubs in South Australia. So it's always a nail biter, and I find it hilarious. I don't think we've had a win against Kooyonga Golf Club in years. It might be
4 years, Soph. I did the maths because I
four
thought in my
years.
head that it had been a bit of a challenge for you. Last win was 2023. You've lost two grand finals against them in that time as well.
Yeah, pretty tough. That makes me feel a bit sick. But we finally got the monkey off our back and we finally got the win. It was a 3-2. Reagan Denton won up over Matilda Miles. Our newcomer, Angela Plumridge at number 5, 7-5 over Tammy Twist. And you've already mentioned it. I was a party pooper and unfortunately got the win over Emily Giotis. But it honestly, Hooky, this was an exciting game. We had so many spectators out there, which was brilliant to see. You can't tell the difference between Cooey and Royal Adelaide because we all donned the navy, which I think is really funny. The only way you can tell is someone's clapping and someone's not. But it was anyone's game, that final. The final 5 holes at Glenelg, and we spoke about it when we did the Glenelg review of the redevelopment, really brought the drama, particularly in Reagan Denton's match against Matilda. There were birdies, there were bogeys. It was just absolutely electric, and I expected nothing less from a game about between Cooey and Royal. I think the thing is, Ben, even if finals weren't on the line, I still think this would have been a close game. Both of us teams want to beat each other just as much as the other. And it's funny because we actually all get along and it's hilarious and we're all taught and having a good time on the first tee, and then all of a sudden it gets to game mode and you can just tell the change in era, and all the managers out there just completely want to win, and it's hilarious. But look, we did end Kooyonga's season. We won't be seeing Kooyonga for the rest of the season. We'll have to wait till 2027 before we see them again. It was another incredible season for Kooyonga, though, I have to say. They only got the one win on the board, but most of their games were incredibly tight. Kooyonga, they had 2 youngsters playing at 4 and 5, and I think personally they probably came in a couple years too early. I think it's great that they're getting the experience of Sanderson, and I think long-term Kooyonga is going to be better for it. And I think they're going to have an incredibly strong team in about 3 to 4 years, thanks to those girls. Matilda Miles, another awesome season. She was playing at number 1. She's not playing as much golf as she used to back in the day, but she showed why she's a 5-time club champion of Kooyonga Golf Club. She really brought the heat and fought up against some of those number 1s in SA. I mean, taking Reagan Denton down 18 was incredibly impressive. She actually had the 3-up lead on her at some point during the match. Emily Giotis, she's a doctor in training, Hooky, so doesn't have as much time to practice as she used to, but she hits one of the longest balls I've ever seen. It's absolutely incredible. She absolutely smacks this thing and it's insane. She's always a danger to come up against. But Hayley Hunt, for me, she was outstanding for Kooyonga Golf Club. I tribute their season all to Hayley Hunt. I don't think they would have been in the running for finals at all if Hayley Hunt had not been in that team at number 3 as a massive anchor. She got 3 out of 4 wins. She was amazing. She's an ex-professional golfer. She was steady as always. I had the privilege of playing the game behind her, so I got to see her play. It's just middle of the green, maybe a 1-putt, maybe a 2-putt. Her hands around the green are absolutely incredible. Her course management is insane. She's unflappable. So Hayley Hunt, congratulations on an amazing season. I think Kooyonga will be incredibly proud to have you back in their Pennant team. I know it's been a while, but she's an absolute staple to that team. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Kooyonga give us in 2027, because knowing Kooyonga, I think they're going to come back with a little bit of heat in 2027.
Excellent, Rat. Now, this is a question that I asked you earlier today, but I might get you to just share it again for our listening audience. If you want to read the article on Royal Adelaide's defeat of Kooyonga, you gave me a wonderful insight into Angela Plumridge. Just tell us a little bit about her once again.
Yeah, so Angela is new to Adelaide, actually. She comes from Mildura and she moved down about 12 months ago. I mentioned it to you. I had the privilege of playing her first round down at Royal Adelaide when she was actually looking at what club she wanted to join and work out the best fit and the best vibe for her. And we were lucky. She ended up choosing Royal Adelaide, and she's a great asset to our team. She hits a massive ball, but where she's come from in the last 6 months is absolutely incredible. Her game is just on an upwards trend.
Brilliant, Soph. Hey, just do you guys all walk a little bit taller with Reagan Denton in your team? I feel like there's a bit of intimidation factor that maybe your club hasn't really had for an extended period of time. And I remember Imogen Jessen, I just feel like had that little bit of, just that self-confidence, that self-belief that almost dragged her teammates along with her. And I just wonder whether Reagan Denton gives you guys that same little bit of extra presence.
Yeah, she definitely. I mean, it's hard not to walk the fairways with a person who's just played Augusta National and not think that she's not having
730s. Thank you.
yeah, not having any sort of impact on the team. So she definitely has a massive impact. It was great to see actually her have a bit of a tight match and have to fight back. I think that does a lot for the team as well, because it kind of shows you that she's not invincible, but she's never out of it either. And I knew it as well. When I heard that she was 3 down through 6 or 7 holes, I actually turned to my dad, who's on the bag, and I said, I think she'll come back pretty strong. And within 4 to 5 holes, she was back on trend. So, no, I think we definitely do walk a fair bit higher. But I mentioned it, and I've mentioned it the entire season. Our squad is as tight as it's ever been. And that is thanks to girls like Reagan, who even when they were away in the US, were still sending us messages and making sure that she was showing that she was still present within our Pennant season, which is unbelievable when she's playing Anwar, and that shouldn't be even remotely on her mind, but it definitely showed that it still was. And I think we definitely walked taller with her beside us, but I think our team has been walking tall all season, if I'm honest. Hookie?
Good point. Right, just to wrap up Sanderson Cup, no real surprise, the Grange with the sweep over Blackwood Golf Club. So disappointing finish for Blackwood. We talked about that last week. We knew that they weren't going to play finals and it was going to end in, I guess, a disappointing season for them. I guess I'll start by asking, are Grange gettable at all? Because you might be playing them in a fortnight's time. And just recap how you think Blackwood's season has played out and where they go from here.
Well, I definitely think Grange are gettable. I would never say anything otherwise. I have been on the receiving end of having an undefeated season and losing in the grand final. So I know exactly what can happen. And I think once you pass the minor rounds, they mean absolutely nothing. Once you step onto finals, it's a whole new ball game. And I totally think Grange are gettable. I mean, obviously, they're going to most likely be going in as the favourites, but favourites don't mean anything when it comes to finals, and I often think it's a better spot to be coming from as an underdog. So yes, Grange are definitely beatable. I mean, the 5-zip win against Blackwood really did stamp that they are the favourites, and I think there was only 4 games didn't make it past the 14th hole, which is pretty disappointing for Blackwood. They were down 2 players though. Ebony and Isabel Watson were away, which is disappointing, but I mean, the game that I was really interested in was Angela Masters, an outstanding effort. She really stepped up to the challenge at having to come in at number 3 against the undefeated Elise Kozlovich, and she took her all the way down 17. I saw Grange standing around and Blackwood standing around the 17th hole, and I thought, oh, this one's a little bit interesting. So kudos to Angela, because that's a really big effort to come against a junior state player like Elise and a state player, open state player like Elise, and take her down 17. But look, obviously Grange have stamped where they are in this season. Blackwood, 1.5 points for the entire season is just not, to be quite frankly, not good enough. And I think Blackwood know that. Blackwood felt really deflated when Royal Adelaide played them the week before, and I think they were severely disappointed. They had some newcomers. They were really excited about this upcoming season, and they had every right to be completely excited, but they just did not have the depth and the strength to be able to compete against the other 4 clubs. The other thing I want to say is this year in Sanderson Cup, there was no home advantage. No one played at home, which I understand why Golf South Australia did it, but for me, not being able to play at home, one, I think is really disappointing because that's when we normally get the majority of our spectators. That I've also got such a sense of pride playing at Royal Adelaide and being able to show our course to the other players. So I was sad when I missed that. But for Blackwood, home ground advantage is just massive. And I think particularly coming across, potentially not Grange, but the other three clubs at Blackwood, Blackwood really stood a chance. You didn't have to be the longest hitter. They know that course inside out. They know all the breaks. They would have been putting the pins in spots that were tricky. Well, I played it. They definitely did. And I don't think Blackwood would have been intimidated. And I also think Blackwood would have known exactly where to put their ball because there were definitely shots around Blackwood where I saw those pins and I went, yep, I'm going to aim here and that will be perfect. And it was completely the wrong spot. I had a downhill 10-foot slider and it was completely the wrong choice, but I didn't know it because I don't know Blackwood and some of these pins I'd never played. Yeah,
that's when I blame Andrew, Caddy Andrew. Bad read, Dad.
Yeah, that's when I blame Dad, and that's where I think I played Zoe Manton. I think that's where Zoe Manton also blamed her dad. So poor Dad's that day. But I feel for Blackwood because I think that's where they really could have, got a few more points, potentially got a win on the board as well, and maybe caused a few upsets within the Sanderson season. So look, I don't think Blackwood should be. I mean, they've got to go back and they've got to go back to the drawing board, and they need some stronger players, particularly in that top end, because they're relying on Ebony and Isabel. They're just going to have tough matches. That's always going to be a bit of a flip of the coin, and we can't be relying on two players in a five-player team. I think Gail and Angela are great, and they're exceptional players. I think they didn't have their best stuff this season. And in fact, I think a lot of the Blackwood players, like Hannah, didn't have her best stuff this season. And sometimes, Hooky, that just happens. Sometimes you're just in a purple patch with golf and you're in the woods and it's really hard to come back in match play. And it's tough.
It's a 5-week season as well,
yeah.
isn't it? So,
it's not long.
Sometimes it's all done before you get a chance to get your game back.
Exactly.
And it's not as if Hannah's got kids and jobs and a career in Gaelic football as well, and it's hard to find time to ground your game back into shape. And it's all done in a month.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Blackwood probably have to go back to the drawing board just a little bit, but I also think they shouldn't feel too deflated. I think they'll come back in 2027 and have a look at themselves and say, look, some of us just weren't in form, and like you said, it's 4 games, Hooky. 4 games, that's all it is. That's 4 weeks of golf. That is absolutely nothing, and it's really hard if you're not in the swing of things to try and find that somewhere. So I always love enjoying and seeing Blackwood. Blackwood are an incredible team. They're an amazing group of women, and I hope to see them back in 2027 with a few more smiles on their faces.
We will, I'm sure, when we review the year, just talk a little bit more about that, and maybe. It's easy for me because I'm not a player and I'm not going to get myself in trouble. But I think there is some ways that we can improve the opportunities for Tier 2 clubs in this competition. I think it's a little bit weighted too far one way in favour of the Tier 1s at the moment. I know I'm saying that while I note that Tea Tree Gully is in second position in the Simpson Cup, which we're going to get to. But that is a discussion for another time. I do feel like we need to make sure that we're getting, the best 20 women and the best 56 men out there on the course each week, and I'm not convinced we're doing that at the moment. That's a discussion for another time. Go on, Soph.
The one thing I wanted to say, though, and I forgot to mention it, I've got to give a little shout out to my friend Harry Coote, who was actually on the microphone at Glenelg giving the intro to all the girls. Severely disappointed. My intro was absolutely shocking. There was no pep in his step whatsoever. And I have him at my house basically every weekend playing darts.
He's a darts partner, isn't he?
He's a darts player, and I expected way more from Kuta. So I'm giving him a little bit of a shout out. I know he listens to this pod, so I will know definitely if he listened to this pod and got this far.
He needs to get the Ivor Robsons going with the intros. He was the famous, the famous first tee introducer at the Open Championship for many, many years, and had that beautiful high-pitched voice. On the tee from Royal Adelaide, Sophie Hilditch. So anyway, there you go, Kuta. You got something to work towards next time Glenelg hosts Pennant. Right, let's talk about Glenelg because they have gone down to Royal Adelaide in the Simpson Cup, and that means that the defending champions are going to miss the finals, which is quite the turn up. We saw some signs, I think, Soph, when they went down at home in their opening match to Tea Tree Gully. They kept in it without being, without really looking like they were world beaters, I suppose. But yeah, it's all come crashing down in the final round with the 4-3 loss. Any thoughts on this match?
Yeah, look, I think I might have predicted Royal Adelaide getting the win here, and I think Royal Adelaide are really showing, as they often do towards the end of their season. It's almost like they shake up a little bit and they come a little bit strong, and our experienced players like Pacifico and Cawthorn really start to stand up for the team, and Matt Lawson down the tail end also does exactly the same thing. So look, I'm disappointed to see Glenelg go home because I think they've had some absolute standout players. It's hard to not look at Nick Wake and just go,
Yes.
how are we not having you in finals? This is just an absolute shock to the system, and I think it is a shock to the.
I'll just jump in. Sorry.
Yeah.
Michael Munn, Cade Bryant, and Nick Wake are probably three of the top 8 best performed players this year.
Yep.
Maybe top 10, right? But you got 3 of the top 10 and they're not in finals. I mean, that is a shock. And I don't want to be overtly critical, but probably suggests that there wasn't enough support for those guys throughout the rest of the list.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just about to say, Hookie. So if you let me speak, you might have got it coming out of my mouth. But it's fine. You've said what I had to say. So how about you just keep going with a rundown of this game?
Look, the things that stand out to me, Billy Cawthorn, still an absolute stud of this competition. So he finishes with 1 loss, 2 halves, and all the rest wins. And doing that at number 2, you think that you hear about guys like Malachy and Billy White and Cade Bryant and these young guys who are sort of making their way up, and you think, yeah, Billy might be just on the outer. No. Billy is still one of the top-notch boys. Hey, Anthony Olsen returns and has a big win, and suddenly he becomes a bit of an X factor when they head into a semi-final next week. I also think Matt Lawson showing something at the right time and repaying the faith that Rod Phillips has had in him has been really important for this team as well. And I just feel like Royal Adelaide has had a bit from everyone this year. So Pacifico has had an excellent year at number 1. Billy, we know, just a genius. Will Arnold has been okay the last few weeks. He's gone down, but he's gone down in some really close matches. And I feel like he could, I mean, he might not, but he may well turn it on. I don't think Will Arnold's going in and we're going to put a cross alongside of his name. He could just as easily turn it around because he's not far off. Billy White returns. Matty Lawson, as I said, is back. Kenty's been really solid, Nathan Kent. And if Ollie's back and firing as well, suddenly they become a really interesting team, I think. I don't think they're the best 7 players out there, Soph, but they might be the best team, and they might be the best team at the right time. They are the fascination of the final series, I reckon. They could get absolutely crushed next week, and we'll talk about next week in the preview show a little bit later in the week. But I reckon they're equipped to throw the biggest upset of the week next week. I feel like they are, 2 in 5 times they would beat the Grange in that contest. 3 in 5 they'll lose, and they might lose 1 or 2 of them pretty significantly. But I just reckon they're in. For Glenelg, look, their Achilles heel got exposed, and we have already touched on this. Their lower order just hasn't quite stepped up yet. The top 4, the big tick, Munn, Wake, Bryant, enormous, and Leonard had some big jobs and he did okay. But Simon Galley, look, he's a middle-ager and he didn't have his best year. Will Starkey and Mick Phillips, they've got some big futures, but they've still got some growing in the game to do, I think. So I think Glenelg will be disappointed. I mean, when you win the title and you don't make finals next year, you're going to be only disappointed, aren't you? But I just see a very quick way forward for Glenelg if they can keep. I mean, Wakey's missed the first week and won 6 weeks in a row. It's just incredible.
Yeah.
Michael Munn, 5.5 from 7 after losing the first week. So they've got so many guys who are excellent at this level. They don't need a lot more to go right, and they'll be able to turn a season like that around. The Grange defeated Thaxted 6-1. We probably don't need to spend much time on this, Soph. Any thoughts?
I think it's exactly what we expected, Hookie. It's sad to see Thacky have to get relegated back down to A2s, but it's exactly what we knew it was happening already. Unfortunately, their chances of not getting relegated had already been blown out of the water, and we expected Grange to absolutely get the job done over them.
Yeah, so Grange continues on its merry way, and I like their attitude. Had a long conversation with their team manager, Craig Brown, earlier today. They do not think opposition. So when he's putting the list together, he just thinks, what's my best 7? That's all I'm bothered about. I'm not thinking about I'm trying to get a match up with this guy or that guy. So I like the way that they head into the final series, very comfortable in their own skin, really trusting of themselves. It was an interesting day. I will tell you this story because this is a bit of a cracker. This was originally scheduled to be at 12 o'clock and the match got moved, I think, to 11:15. And Darren Baines had not got the message that this had been moved from 12 o'clock to 11:15. So they have a team meeting half an hour before the scheduled tea time, which was supposed to be 10:45, and Bainesy missed it. But not only did he miss the 10:45 tea time, the 10:45 meeting, he was very, very close to missing his probably about 11:30 tea time, to the point that someone had to go park his car and he ran with his driver to the first tee to hit off against Matthew Rolton while someone else organised his bag and his buggy out of his car and wheeled it out to him as he was wandering down the first. It was that close to a potential loss of first hole and go to the second. So for Bainesy, go on.
I've actually done that caddying. Darcy, my fiance, was playing Thaxted. It was his first ever Pennant match, and I still remember having to pull into that Thaxted car park and absolutely doing the fastest run I've ever done. And Darcy's quite literally standing over the ball. Not so bad when you're the caddy; it's fine. But probably not my best move. Well, look, he still managed to put a ring on it. I was a girlfriend at that time, so I got him over the line. He got the win, but yeah, it was a bit of a shaky start from the caddy.
I think that's the first time on this podcast you've confirmed him as fiance, as distinct from partner. You've been waiting around that ring for months now, and you've finally come clean to all of our listeners. You're off the market. I tell you, this could drop our listenership by about 30%. So all of the hopefuls standing there in line. And, no, sorry, Darcy's won the day.
Well, let's cut this out. Nah, kidding.
Can we just touch on Thaxted? Because I think it's important that we just reflect on what they've done. They've been pretty incredible for the last 7-8 years. I remember they beat Mount Osmond in 2018 to go through to Simpson Cup. They had 1 year down and then back up. And they're obviously going down now. They'll be back in A2 next year. Gee, they've lost some talent. So the two Dash boys have gone to Wollonga and are playing very, very well in, are they in Bonner Cup or A2? I'm not sure. But anyway, Wollonga are really going superbly at the moment, and those two boys are helping out. The Edie boys who played this year, but they're very rare appearances. Matt Hay hasn't played at all. Matt Rolton only played 2 games. Lockie Oakes has gone to Cooey, and Ben Pearce went to the Vines from Thaxted Park a few years ago. Collect all that talent back up. I mean, that is a Simpson Cup and a half side that they've got going on there. So they have really lost some talent. They're going to have to work their way back through with some juniors to try and make it up. I think they've got some hope with a kid like Lockie Matthews, who's really exciting. Matt Hart is someone that I think there's a future for as well. But just outside of that, I feel like they've just run out of steam. All of their guys have got older and they've just decided that this level of competition probably isn't for them anymore. So I feel like it's a bit of a long road back for Thaxted, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see them have 2 or 3 years in A2 now and just sort of rebuild and restock. They're a very proud club. They've had a lot of success in this competition in the past, and I can certainly see them making their way back. But yeah, it just sort of ran out of steam, this incredible run that they've had, and hopefully they can regroup, consolidate and get that done over maybe 2 or 3 seasons, and we can maybe see them back in 28 or 29. So, but no, congratulations to Thaxted on everything they've done, and it does come to the end of the road here in 2026, and we wish them all the best in A2.
Absolutely, Hookie. Let's move on to the next game,
which is Tea Tree Gully, who defeated Mount Osmond 4-3. Tea Tree Gully finished in 2nd. Mount Osmond finished in 7th. There was never going to be a loser in this game. Tea Tree Gully were always going to play finals. Mount Osmond had done all of their work to ensure that they were going to avoid relegation, and we've talked about their year. It's been excellent. Just your thoughts on this, Tea Tree Gully? I felt like they really needed this one after a bit of a stuttering last 3 weeks.
I think they did, and it really showed that the top end of that order, how strong it is at TTG. Like Sadira, Ben, Matthew, absolutely incredible, getting the wins. Sadira had a 5-4 win over Kenneth Chan, but the others just getting it over, on the 17th hole was really incredible and really important to Tea Tree Gully. And I think those boys needed the win because coming up against the other three clubs in finals is going to be tough. And if they want to win, they're going to have to get at least 2 wins out of those top 4. So I think that was really important for Tea Tree Gully. For Mount Osmond, a huge congratulations. Those games were all pretty close. Couple of 5 and 4s, but apart from which one of them went to Ben Walters from Mount Osmond. But apart from that, all close, incredible games. And Mount Osmond showed that I'd be looking out for them in 2027. As if this is their first time in Simpson Cup, they've showed up to play and they've got another 12 months to really hone in those skills, particularly for some of those players that might not necessarily have played Simpson Cup before, and this might be their first run at it.
Yeah, well said. So, yeah, Tea Tree Gully for me, I mean, gee, they just had to find a way. I don't think they're in great form, and I think they've certainly got to do some improving if they're going to get past Kooyonga next week. I mean, Dan Searle was 2 up with 3 to play against Chris Austin and lost the 16th and lost the 18th for it to be square. And that was the difference between that match, the contest overall being halved, or Mount Osmond going down 4-3. So Mount Osmond were right in this. So you look at Tea Tree Gully, they went 4 and zip. And then from there, they have gone 0-7 to the Grange, which, you know, you can understand, a half with the Vines, and then just fell in against Mount Osmond. So I don't think it's great form heading into a match against Kooyonga. We'll talk about Kooyonga. I don't think they're in great form either, to be absolutely honest. Will Summerfield's missed the last few weeks, and I reckon he would be important to get back into the team in time for semi-finals. I do think there's a path through for Tea Tree Gully, and obviously we'll talk more about next week. But, you know, Chris Austin at 1, the Crown Prince Sadira at 2, the Mongoose Ben Hallam at 3. I mean, that is a really, really good top 3. And then if you add the 2 Summerfields, if you add Grant DeBias, who I reckon is a really important player for them, Matt McMahon, they're just tough to kill, you know, Tea Tree Gully. There's always someone who is going to stand up and just, when you think you've knocked the ball over, another bloke gets back up. I just feel like they're, you know, like SAS soldiers and that sort of thing. They're just, you can never quite knock them off. So I'm excited to see how they go in finals. Yeah, I think that's going to be a really interesting match against Kooyonga. We'll talk about that later in the week. For Mount Osmond, so nothing but flowers. They won 20 and lost 29 matches this year. Compare that to 2024 when they won 10 and lost 39. So it's a huge jump. And when you think about it, every other team, Thaxted Park aside, but every other team in this competition has their second team in Bonner Cup. It's a good grounding. You know, you can use that to your advantage, where you can see how guys can react if they play against another Tier 1 club. Well, Mount Osmond's second team is in B2, and they're bottom of B2 as well. Wow. Their junior team is in Junior Division 3, and they're bottom of that. So they have really been relying on 7 guys, and they would just happen to be available all week, and all of them have fought the good fight. They have been absolutely incredible. They're going to need some depth. They've got a good recruiting program going. That's how they brought Zach Fielding in. I know they're eyeing another. I won't declare who that is or where they're looking, because I don't want the Tier 1s to pry them away. I certainly hope that this kid's playing for Mount Osmond next year. And I just think they're going to have to be a little bit creative as well. Can they find another +2 handicapper? I mean, they don't fall off trees, you know, but could they poach someone from somewhere like Flagstaff Hill? So there's a Brett Goddard who's been really good form for Flagstaff Hill. Do you knock on his door and say, can we work out a deal to try and get you across to Mount Osmond and get you playing some Simpson Cup? Because I just feel like they're one short at the top end. Their bottom end has been excellent this year, but yeah, big upside for them. And as you said, could very much be challenging for finals in 2027. Just got to retain all of their squad and add 1 or 2, I think.
Yep, 100%. Hookie, let's head to what I think was the most interesting game of the Sunday for the Simpson Cup, Kooyonga v the Vines.
Kooyonga wins 4 and 3. Tell me all about it.
Well, this was interesting, and you made a point in your last little debrief just a second ago that Kooyonga don't seem to be in the best form at the moment. This was close. This was a absolute nail biter, and they definitely fumbled their way over the line. And I think it's going to be an interesting finals, preliminary finals for the Simpson Cup. I think the winner of Simpson Cup comes out of that game, Grange v Royal Adelaide. And I think it's going to be a bit of a pillow fight between Tea Tree Gully and Kooyonga Golf Club.
Pillow fight. Oh, I don't know it'd be a pillow fight, but I understand. I understand where you're going. Hey, this would have sent shivers up the Kiwi camp for a while. This match. Now, I'm pretty certain that before it got really serious, Royal Adelaide had already beaten Glenelg because they were in one of the earlier tee slots. That message would have filtered across Thaxted Park Golf Club, and all of the problems had been solved by Royal Adelaide before Kooyonga eventually solved them all themselves. But 4 of these matches went to 18. One of them went to 17. So this could have been a disaster right in front of us if Kooyonga had lost this to the Vines. And the Vines, we just know they're scrappers, they're competitive, they're experienced, good bunch of blokes who love playing golf together. And they would have loved nothing more than, even though they weren't going to make the finals themselves necessarily, if they could have thrown a stone in the shoe of the Kooyonga boys, they would have really enjoyed that. So, yeah, well played to the Vines and great to see them finish the season well. Kooyonga, so they were the absolute hot favourites. If you remember back to round 1, and we just talked about the depth and the strength of the Grange, and Kooyonga goes out and beats them in round 1. They beat Thaxted Park in round 2, and you and I are sitting here chatting in those podcasts and sort of thinking, well, this is probably Kooyonga by how far? And they have had a bit of a spluttering year ever since then. In the next 5 matches, they've gone 2 wins, 2 losses, and a half, and they've all been, quite close. So what have they had? They've had 2-4-3 losses, 2-4-3 wins, and a half. I mean, that's a bit un-Kooyonga-like. I normally expect Kooyonga just to walk around slapping people down 5.5, 1.5, 6-1. And we haven't seen anything like that from Kooyonga this year. Now, they're in the finals and you've only got to play well for 2 weeks and that's it. But, I just don't know that they're coming into finals as good as what we've seen them. Now that I've said that, you know what they're going to do, don't you?
Oh,
They're
smash it. Yeah.
Blow away Tea Tree Gully and blow away the Grange and they'll have their name engraved on the trophy yet again. Some positives for Kooyonga. Heath's back in form. Excellent 5-4 win. He would have taken a lot out of that. He's been working on a few swing changes. I don't think his body's been 100%. So if Heath Riches is in form, that's a nightmare for Tea Tree Gully. They've got Malachy in there. I've written in the article this week, Malachy Marshall doing Malachy Marshall things. And Frank Vukic, who hasn't played last week, but, if he's back in, then he's very imposing and suddenly they become tough to beat. For the Vines, Soph, I think they're worth just touching on before we wrap it up. They were a bit of a shadow of themselves without the Chancellor, Tony Nobbs, who missed the last month with a shoulder injury. I mean, the king is still there, Sam Earl, but I just wonder whether they're heading towards a little bit of a transition. They've always been the oldest team on the park. I mean, Charlie Nobbs, that we wanted to see do amazing things at this level and beyond, just hasn't quite broken through just yet, and he's back in the Bonner Cup team, and we'll see where that ends up. Just worth making the point as well, their Bonner Cup team had 1 win for the year and is 7th. So I don't think this is absolute panic stations for the Vines just yet, but I just wonder whether their premiership window, they played in 2 grand finals in the last 5 years, and whether that premiership window maybe is going to close and they're going to have to start to regenerate with a bit of a new squad. All of those guys, if they keep playing, they're going to be competitive. And as I said, they're tough and they're hardy and they're wily and they're smart, but maybe a Simpson cut with this group maybe is a thing of the past now, and whether they start to transition in the next year or two will be interesting to see.
Very interesting, Hookie. Very interesting indeed.
So that wraps us up for today, but we have quite the announcement to share with everyone. And if you've come this far, this is probably going to interest you. Next Tuesday night, this is the 28th of April, Sophie Hilditch and I will be co-host of the inaugural Hooked on Sport Player of the Year Awards. We are hosting it in conjunction with the team at Golf Australia who will be playing their part in the night. But our awards, Soph, will feature the young male and female player of the year, the most improved Pennant club of the year, and for the first time ever, we will be presenting on a voting 3-2-1 system, the player of the year for both the Simpson and the Sanderson Cup. It's at the Glenelg Golf Club from 6 p.m. on Tuesday the 28th. If you are really interested in coming along, I would suggest you get in contact with me at the following email address, hook_shots@yahoo.com.au. We are capped at around about 70 people. We're putting a little bit of food on. Drinks are available for purchase at the bar. We're so grateful to Glenelg Golf Club for getting involved and supporting us. We're also extremely grateful to Golf Australia. Now, these are not Golf Australia awards, but they will be presenting awards to all of the players who had undefeated seasons throughout 2026. And so that will be a real feature of the night. There is actually 9 of them, Soph, under the criteria that Golf Australia have come up with. So we'll be able to share those with you next week. But that is going to be a wonderful night, the first ever Player of the Year for Simpson and Sanderson Cup. I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to doing it all with you, mate.
Yeah, I'm super excited, and I want to, on the record, I haven't had anything to do with any of this voting because I obviously am a player. So
Yes.
I'm going to be just as surprised as everyone when I start announcing names as to who's actually the Player of the Year, because I've got no idea. The only thing I was really able to help you out with was the young player, because I'm way out of that category now, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
that's the only influence I've had on these whole awards tonight, apart from the fact I'm going to be standing up there with a microphone.
Yeah, so we are tremendously excited. It will be the Hooked on Sport Player of the Year for both Simpson and Sanderson Cup. It's on Tuesday the 28th. If you want to come, get in contact with me quickly and I'll try and work out how we are for available tickets. That will be towards the end of the week. Tickets are free, by the way. We do everything free, don't we, Soph? We are remarkably generous with the way we roll. But no, we're really keen to share with as many people as we can what we've got in store. We've had a lot of fun covering it this year, and this will be our centrepiece, if you like, the Hooked on Sport Player of the Year Awards. Soph, that wraps us up for tonight. Thank you so much. Congratulations to you on making finals, and we will be back later in the week to talk about that preliminary final and all of the Simpson Cup finals as well. We'll see you then.
Well, I'm so excited, Hookie, to speak to you then. See you later.
With the last putt sunk, that's a wrap on this golf edition of Hooked on Sport. Thanks for listening. Help us meet more golfers just like you by following us and leaving a review. We look forward to your company on the next golf edition of Hooked on Sport.